What does it mean to really be free? How can you own your freedom, own your sovereignty? How can you be liberated, right? Many of our actions in the world, many of our thoughts, our emotions, are they really your own? Were they something you came up with? Or are they something you've just picked up like a coat and put on and decided to wear? Decided to embody for that day, for that moment? To be free, what if it was that you created something wholly unique to yourself, wholly unique to you in that moment, and it might align with other things that others have done in the past, but it is truly you, it is truly something that is arising within you as an impulse. Because as the teacher Rudolf Steiner says, anything that is not rising from within us as an impulse, first as an impulse to take action or to speak or to do whatever, to think, well, if it's not arising within, then is likely out of habit. And so to follow moral doctrines or religious doctrines or societal doctrines, or what you were your upbringing taught you to do, how you were to show up in your family to be a good little boy or a good little boy, or to sit in your classroom and shut up and do your work and get good grades and participate, right, in the game, of life, in the game of the classroom, in the game of the government and your financial situation. All of these things are great. Just realize they are part of the game. They're little micro games within the greater game. And you're not fixed to the game. Obviously play the game to the degree it's meaningful for you, but you're not fixed in the game. You don't have to always play by the rules of the game and be stuck in the game. You're free to play whatever game you want. Now, there are certain real aspects of life. For example, if you don't show up in certain ways, and then there may not be any food, there may not be any money. So it's important to play some games and not just say, I'm not going to play any games. I'm free from games, because that's not really a freedom either. Your sovereign being, your impulses are going to guide you to show up in a whole way, which will require action, work. It will require moving through things that may be challenging at times, and this is great. This is how you grow. It's like strength training. You grow by stimulus on the muscles, and then recovery. You rest and recover, and they heal and become stronger, and you repeat. So through the challenges, you become stronger. So back to what it means to be free. Where are your impulses rising from? Are they rising from within, or are they rising from what you think you should be doing? What do you think you should be doing? What do you think it means to be a good husband, a good wife, a good parent, a good little person in society that carries out all the rules? What does it mean to fit in? Do you really want to fit in? Is that really what life is all about, is to fit in? Yes, we want to fit in to some degree, to not be so far disconnected from the world that we're ostracized. But also, if fitting in means sacrificing your heart, your soul, your own inner impulses, well, what's the point of that? That sounds terrible. So what does want to rise from within you? What creations want to emerge? How do you want to participate in this great show of life? It's totally up to you. Those impulses already exist within you. So are you able to tap into those? That leads us to an important side note. To tap into these things, we need to have a certain level of coherence. We need to be living in integrity, have a somewhat of a healthy body, a healthy mind, and we also need to be still and quiet enough to listen, to hear and discern the impulses that are arising, and to know if those are appropriate impulses, because just as there can be pure impulses, there can also be distorted impulses that may lead you astray. So a big part in your spiritual evolution and your evolution as a being in this world is, the first step is to become aware that you're aware. Are you aware of the thoughts, emotions, and actions that you take? Ideally before you take them. Are you aware of them? Become aware that you're aware. Now the second step is to become aware that your thoughts, emotions, and actions are not always your own. Sometimes they can come from habit, sometimes they can come from ego, sometimes they can come from non-physical beings. Your resonance with different energy fields can affect your thoughts and emotions, the environment you're in, the space that you're in. These can all affect the people you're around. It all affects. So, are these thoughts and emotions yours, or are they something else? So, to discern that. And after that, the third level of development is to become aware that of the quality of the beings that you're interacting with. Okay, so now you're aware that you're having this thought. And now you're aware that this thought was actually not generated by you. Was it generated by some kind of an angel or something like this? Or something perhaps lesser than an angel? Or perhaps something else? So what is the quality? Does it feel like a pure and fruitful quality, or does it feel constricting? Does it feel foul? Does something not smell right in your life? Does that thought or that action, that will impulse, does it not smell right? Discernment, a lot of it has to do with the nose. How does something smell? How do the things in your life smell? And not necessarily in the physical sense, more so in the subtle sense of the word smell. So this is a way you can discern and determine whether you really are free. And freedom comes from being centered. Freedom comes from knowing when to act and when to be still, knowing what is for you and what is for not, knowing when to say yes and when to say no, to set your boundaries. A certain level of closeness, right? Having the wisdom to know, like, when is it appropriate to merge with another, to merge with my business, to go fully in on my creations, my inventions, my arts, my passions? And when is it appropriate to step back and to create some space and say, okay, that is enough for now, it's time to rest, I've worked enough. This is what it means to be free. Freedom isn't something you're given or granted. Freedom has already been given. It's your choice what you do with it. This freedom can also extend into the circumstances of your life. So if something happens and you get very angry and you're mad and it's like, well, does that anger, and does it make you act in a certain way that you lash out unconsciously without being aware that you're aware? You're not free if that's the case. Freedom would say, okay, anger arises. I feel this anger. I don't reject the anger. It's a very powerful, fiery energy. I feel it, but I hold it in my hand. Is it appropriate to cast a stone? Because anger often arises in the form of a boundary overstep. So perhaps someone overstepped a boundary, whether spoken or unspoken in some way. So we were holding our anger. They overstepped a boundary. Do I cast a stone? Is it appropriate? Is it the right timing? Maybe they're going through a lot. Maybe I save the stone for later. Or maybe I just drop the stone. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. Maybe I'm being a bit sensitive or overreacting. And maybe the situation has nothing to do with what's actually playing out, but it's my own subconscious perception of the pattern that's playing out. And so I'm having an emotional reaction, a trigger, so to speak, that has nothing to do with this person. They're just representing some character. Maybe they're representing your childhood teacher, or they're embodying your parent, or like your mother or your father, and they're playing that archetype for you, and that's triggering you because you're like, like when my mother and father treated me like this, or whatever it was. So identify these things. That is a big aspect of freedom, is not to be reactionary, is to be aware, not to be sleepwalking through your life, but to be aware of what is going on within you and around you, and how you are relating to life, relating to your purpose, relating to others in relationship. And freedom also means not going with the groove, not going with the flow. Society says do this, okay, I do this. Like, don't let yourself be pressured, peer pressure, and these types of things. Freedom means to be sovereign, to, like we said, do what you know is right. And so yes, to be non-reactionary, to be able to direct your perception. Another form of freedom is very challenging. Maybe a tragic event happens in your life, and maybe someone passes away in a really tragic way, or you develop an illness or something. Well, to be unfree would to feel like a victim and be like, well, how could this happen to me, or why are these circumstances so bad, or whatever. To be free is to see that the divine has given that experience as a gift for you to learn and grow in a very unique way, and it's happening for you. It may feel rather uncomfortable, it may be unpleasant in many ways, but it's happening for you as a gift. And when you perceive it that way, it is a very light and expansive state. But if you get all upset about it, it's very constricting, and you're limiting yourself and becoming a victim, which isn't a very helpful state in the expansion of your being, because you're giving your power away, you're giving your freedom away to something external. The same could be said, a challenging thing happened in your life. Maybe someone cuts you off in traffic, or someone does something very rude and mean to you, and perhaps it was very rude and mean. And that's okay, that happens in life sometimes. But we can direct our perception. We can say, wow, like, what, this person's really going through a lot and they had an emotional reaction, and I really feel for them, and compassionately, hold space for them. And perhaps it's a very close relationship, and someone does something, maybe they betray you in some way, or something much bigger happens in a way. Well, communicate with them, but also see that that too is happening for you as a gift, and it's giving you the opportunity to see, well, how do you show up? How do you perceive this event? Do you see it as a problem, see it as something that is harming you, that someone is attacking you? Or do you see that this character here in your life is wearing a mask, illuminating something for you, so you can see your own shadows, so you can see your own limitations, so you can see your own boundaries and edges, and say, well, here's something that's causing a reaction for me, and it's pulling me out of my center into a reactionary perception. And so you get to choose how your reality is perceived. You can't necessarily make everything happen that you want to happen in your life. That's not how things work. But you can choose your perception of them. You can say, well, maybe I didn't get all the money I thought I was supposed to get because maybe if I had that money, I wouldn't have used it appropriately. Maybe I would have got a plane ticket to Asia and gone on a whole another adventure that I wasn't meant to be on if I had that money. And so sometimes circumstances happen from a higher understanding of your life and your circumstances to happen for you. But there's a flip side to this. Perhaps you didn't get that money because on a deep subconscious level you had a belief that you weren't worthy of it. You had a belief that maybe money was evil. And so you can see there is a responsibility aspect. Some things are out of our control, but if you have a belief that's very deeply subconsciously wound, and then it's causing circumstances in your life, well, that is in your power to change. And so know when it's out of your control and there's nothing for you to change other than your perception, and also discern when there is something for you to change. You can change your health, you can change the way you eat, you can change the way you sleep, you can change the work you do, you can change how you show up in a relationship, you can change your beliefs. You can change so many things in your life. Certain things you cannot change. Accept those. Be at peace with those. Know that you cannot change them. But the things you can, optimize, become, evolve, emerge. Be peace. Be love. Be free.